This screencast is going to cover crisis management. So this is problem solving mistaken behavior at that level 3, strong unmet needs. So first, we need to define when we intervene in this way. And there are 3 qualifications. 1, the children are struggling to solve the problem and the situation is getting worse or is clearly going to get worse. The second is that the education process is facing serious disruption. Both of these can look like these 3 bullets that I have listed here: anger, violent outbursts, frequent temper tantrums, things of those nature. The third is dangerous situations that are physiological or are psychological or physical. So physical harm or psychological harm, children saying things that really physically devastate other children, scare them, or make them concerned about their well-being. So we're going to talk about combination intervention here. When we reach the crisis management stage, the danger of physical and psychological harm is imminent, as we talked about before. So it really requires a myriad of techniques. It's a really complicated process. It's going to be ongoing and frequent. It's not just do this one thing one time and everything's going to be okay. It really requires a lot of intentionality by the teachers and a lot of various strategies in combination. It's important to note here that the goal is to restore communication to the point where the problem can be solved. So therefore, all children need to get out of their little reptilian brain and bring all of that brainstem, limbic system, frontal lobe back in functioning so that the conversation can happen. So you really need to make sure adults and children have effectively moved out of fight, flight, and flee mode. There are 3 essential steps. First is to stop the impulse. Second is to calm the children. And 3 is to engage in guidance talk. They do not need to happen all immediately. You certainly immediately have to stop the impulse and you have to immediately calm the children. But guidance talk can always follow up later in the day as it seems appropriate for an individual child or groups of children. So there are 4 techniques for stopping the impulse. The first is being direct. It's describing without labeling. It's expressing displeasure without insult, because it's just as important for you as a teacher to express your feelings as it is for the children. This is your community too, and you are a member of it. And then correct by direction. You can do redirection or you can give specific feedback. So I'm going to give an example here. 2 children are arguing in the block center and they look as if they are about to throw materials at each other. So this is where I would say, "Oh my gosh, please stop. I'm really worried. It looks like you 2 may hurt each other. That really scares me for your safety. I'm going to ask you to continue to build here, and I'm going to ask you to come over here with me and work on something else." So that's a redirection. If we're going to do that with a specific message, I might say, "It's really important to me when you're working in the block area that I see you building with the blocks." So I'm stating what I want to see, very specific direction. You can hear in my tone that I'm firm, but I do it in a way that shows that I care, and I soften over time to make sure that I'm being open to the children and that they see that I'm here for them and it's not just all about my feelings. The second choice here is commanding a choice. So this is when the situation has moved beyond inviting or requesting a choice. And really, it's where you use in and out choices. So remember that commanding a choice is not, it's not like, "Do you want to? Okay, is that going to work for you?" It's, I am commanding that you make one of 2 options, and those are your only 2 options. And of course, guidance must be offered later. So if a child takes a choice that is not related to problem solving or guidance or relationship building, that needs to come in later on. So a situation might be 2 children who are pushing each other at the water table and yelling loudly. Then I would intervene and say, "Wow, when you 2 yell at each other and push each other at the water table, that really makes me scared and it's unsafe in our classroom. You have 2 choices. You can choose to come work on this project with me, or you can go over and work in this area here." Really making it clear that those are the only options. So the third resort is calm first, teach later. This is when a child is far too upset to be spoken to, child or children. You're going to essentially validate feelings through effective listening and narration, and you're going to provide cool down time that is clearly not a punishment. So this is not timeout. This is not, sometimes people even call it time away, thinking it sounds nicer. This is not that. This is personal space that a child might need, or comfort that a child might need, and provide a space where a child can choose to be by themselves if they need it. So that's where having a cozy corner can be really helpful. And you can say to a child, let's go to the cozy corner together and help you calm down. Or when you're upset like this, the cozy corner often helps you. You can go there now if you'd like. If they don't want to go there, though, don't force them. Then it becomes punitive. Then find another way to calm them. Not bear hugs, but calming hugs, arm rubs, back rubs, soothing touches, all the while validating that feeling. Then later in this process, the guidance would come. So a situation might be a child has just hit a peer and then they're crying uncontrollably. I will tell you that there are lots of children like this who they act out from strong emotions and then they don't mean to hurt other people and they're overwhelmed by their own emotions and seeing what they've done and they get overly emotional. This child needs you to be there for them because they feel out of control as much as the peer who just got hurt. And then the last technique is the very, 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 very last resort. This is physical restraint, and this should be used extraordinarily rare. I have only used this myself a few times in my career, and it's very important to realize that this is not a go-to technique by any means. This is when the child has lost physical control and is in danger to themselves or others. Restraint is not discipline. It is only used to mitigate extreme harm. The best way to do it is back to front bear hugs, meaning the child's back is up against your front and you are just holding them like this, keeping them safe. You're not using your fingers, you're not pushing, you're just keeping them in and safe. You should always have a witness in this case, and while you are holding this child, you will only use soothing and loving words. I love you. I am here for you. You are safe. We can calm down. I care for you. I love you. I love you. I love you. You cannot say that enough. You can say, we love you. So on and so forth. It is extraordinarily important that this child is only filled with love, because this is a child who is in an extreme situation, who is a danger to themselves or others. Most often this technique is only used when a child is physically self-harming, children who may bang their heads into walls, etc. Even if you have a situation with a child who has extreme behavior where they might throw chairs, shelves, etc., it is always best to remove the other children versus restrain that child wherever possible. If you're working with a child who needs support in this area and their behaviors is extreme, you really need to be working with your center director, early childhood mental health consultants, special ed teachers, anybody and everybody at your school that can help with this, because this is something that really requires high-level preventional intervention. So that concludes talking about crisis management for those strong unmet needs.